Lorient want Areola. Meanwhile, West Ham have had a loan bid rejected for Brazilian Wonderkid. Dan Randolph is close to joining Bournemouth, and we've had our beer mats turned into reusable coasters. All that coming up, but first it's all about Spence of Tottenham Hotspur, because apparently, according to the reports, he's available on loan and West Ham want him. And I pray this is true. It's not often rumours come along, and I really hope there's something in it and that it comes true. But this is something I do. I would love to see Spence at West Ham for the rest of the season, even if it's just on loan. We'd be doing Tottenham a bit of a favour as well. But I think he's a talented player. Do I believe the rumour? I believe half of it, but we're going to discuss it hypothetically anyway, because there's a train of thought that I've had prior to this rumour anyway. But you all know who Spence of Tottenham is, although you'll be forgiven for thinking I don't recall seeing him in a Spurs shirt. Probably because you haven't. Since joining in the summer, he's had 0 starts, just half an hour of football to his name, and they signed him from Middlesbrough in the summer for £12.5 million. And if you're thinking I don't remember seeing him in a Middlesbrough shirt, again, you'd be forgiven for that as well, because last season he was actually on loan at Nottingham Forest. He played right wing back, Brennan Johnson was on the right, and they caused chaos in the FA Cup and they caused chaos in the Championship, and he got his move to Spurs. Middlesbrough didn't necessarily need him. They had Isaiah Jones, so they already had a replacement at the club, so they cashed in on him, and he's gone to Tottenham, where he just hasn't had a chance at all. I mean, alarm bells was going immediately, because when he arrived, Antonio Conte described him as something like a club signing. I mean, that's one way of telling the player that he didn't really want him. So the reports are he's available on loan, and it just makes sense. That's the half of the rumour, I believe. They've obviously got Emerson Royale, they've got Matt Doherty, they're ahead of him in the pecking order, and they're ready to spend big money on Pedro Porro from Sporting. They had a game yesterday, he didn't feature in the squad whatsoever. Lots and lots of expectation that he's going to sign for Spurs this week, which means that Spence essentially is 4th choice right wing back. It makes sense for Tottenham to loan him out. Keep his value high. It looks like Conte is going to be leaving Spurs in the summer, but regardless of whether Conte's here or not, it means that Spence can either be sold in the summer for a high value, or the new manager can have a look at. There's a body of evidence of Spence playing in the Premier League elsewhere to decide what to do with him long term. It makes sense for Tottenham. It makes sense for Spence, because at the minute he's doing nothing. Half an hour of football, it can't be good for him whatsoever, so he needs to get out of that club. Again, even if it's just a temporary transfer. In regards to West Ham, historically West Ham and Tottenham don't tend to do too much business, and that's the only thing preventing me from believing this rumours. Also, to some extent, I'm not convinced that we are after a right back or a right wing back in the transfer window. So that stops me believing it. But like I said, I really do hope it's true, because he's a game changer, and I'm going to discuss just why right now. Going into the transfer window, so during the World Cup break, when evaluating the squad and what my personal hopes would have been for West Ham in the transfer window, a right back would have been a top priority. Just before the World Cup, I felt that was our weakness. I mean, we've got plenty of weaknesses in the starting 11, don't we? But that position in particular was causing us a little bit of grief. Soufal wasn't doing well, Johnson wasn't doing well, Thilo Kehrer was a nightmare at right back. We needed to solve that problem. Post World Cup, I've been quite impressed by Vladimir Soufal. Is he back to his best? Not quite, but I think he's been a hell of a lot better than what we've seen this season, and also last season as well. I think Soufal has improved a lot, and that's why I don't think we'll be in the market for any right back, never mind just Spence. Although he's ticking a lot of the boxes because of his age, homegrown as well, and if you could get an option to buy in there, it would be a no-brainer. I just can't quite bring myself to believe it. However, when the January transfer window came out, I thought, we need a striker, we need some goals, we need a bit of creativity, we could do with a centre-back because Dawson's leaving, there's all this, that and the other. But my opinions changed a little bit post-Everton. Now, this is obviously pre-Danny Ings' injury. So post-Everton, when we've just won 2-0, I've just watched the game, as far as I'm aware, Zuma and Ings are fine, okay? As far as I'm aware, they're okay. Now, obviously, the injuries to those two probably changes things a little bit in the window. But after the game, so Sunday, whatever it was, when I was thinking back about the game, I thought, if this is the formation we want to go with, which is a back three with wing backs, we need a right wing back. Now, I thought Soufal played okay against Everton. I thought he was fine. He didn't have a bad game, but Michaelenko is poor. Mykolenko is one of the easiest opponents he will come up against this season. It wasn't difficult for Soufal to play fine in that game. He wasn't troubled whatsoever. When we go play Newcastle and he's got Yolentin and then St. Maximum coming off the bench, and then when we go play Tottenham and he's got Son running at him, when we go play Chelsea and he's got Mudryk running at him, these are completely different level of opponents, and this is where my worry comes in. Because coming into January transfer window with Creswell's performance against Brentford, uncertainty over Emerson as a traditional left back, and when we were playing a back four, I thought we possibly need a left back. But now we're switching to a back three, I think, well, we're okay on the left side because Emerson can do that role. We now need a right wing back, and this is a bit of a problem I think we've got, because we ain't got budget and we ain't got enough play. There's not enough opportunity to go bring in 3 or 4 players between now and then the window. There's less than a week to go. I'll be impressed if we bring in 2. I'll be surprised if we bring in 2. The noise is coming out of the club in the last 24 hours is that Cornet is nearly back. Scamacca's not out for that long. Ings isn't out for that long. They'll be fine. The strikers will be fine. In regards to centre-backs, the noise is we'll get somebody in on loan and that'll be that. So I think that's what we're in the market for at the minute. A loan signing at the back and possibly a loan signing elsewhere in the squad if one presents itself. And this is where I hope that Spence does. Because if our default formation for the remainder of the season was a back four, I would suggest we need a left back. I would suggest that Creswell's not playing particularly well, that Ben Johnson hasn't really pulled up any trees this season, and like I said, there is concerns over Emerson as a traditional left back. Emerson is better as a wing back. But we're going to play a back three. The left side's fine. Emerson can play that role. I thought he played really well against Everton. His best game in a West Ham shirt, albeit not very difficult because the bar wasn't particularly high yet. But there was hope there. His cross led to Jared Bowen scoring. It was positive. But like I said, the right wing back situation is where I think we could do with a bit of investment. Do I think Kerr's a good right wing back? Not really. Do I think Ben Johnson is? No. Do I think Soufal is? Not really. As a right wing back, I know it's a bit complicated, but hopefully you're with me still. As a right back, in a back four, I think Soufal's fine. Defensively, I think he's pretty strong. I think his positioning's good. There's never any questions about his work ethic or his attitude. The downfall for Soufal and Johnson is what they provide, or lack of what they provide, going forward in the final third. Their crossing it's poor. It's not even average, it's poor. For somebody who was racking up the assists a couple of seasons ago when he first joined, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's maybe just always been a law of average kind of guy with his crosses, just that Antonio was getting on the end of them. I don't know. I haven't gone back to study them. But this season and last season, what we get out of Soufal in terms of crossing is not good enough. So we're going to play wing backs. I think we need an upgrade on the right hand side. But if we're not, I think we need an upgrade on the left hand side. It's a little bit complicated, but this is where I have a concern over what our intention is in terms of formation and tactics going forward. Has the injury to Kurt Zouma changed that again? Perhaps we'll play both. I imagine that is the likely scenario, that some games will play a back four and some games will play a back three. And that's what I think puts us in a little bit of a predicament. Well, because like I said, we're not going to buy a left back and a right wing back, are we? We're just not going to do that. But I do think Spence is a fantastic opportunity to get someone in on loan that can just change our team. He's fast going forward. He's fantastic. His dribbling is brilliant. His crossing is really good. Defensively, really, really strong. Very energetic. He would just give us a complete lease of life down that right-hand side. He's the type of player, if you get wing-backs good enough, if your wing-backs are that good at their job, it almost forces you to play a back three. But it's like Chelsea. You almost want to play a back three so you can get Reece James playing wing back and Ben Chilwell playing wing back as well, when they're all fit, of course. Because when they're playing as full-backs, they're not quite as efficient going forward. Certainly Liverpool would suggest that they can be with Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, but we've seen the defensive fragilities with Alexander-Arnold this season there in a back four. As a wing-back, you'd have that protection. And I just think if your wing-backs are that good, it almost says to Moyes, you've got to play a back three here because you need to get the best out of Spence. And he is somebody that will give us assists. We are lacking creativity at the minute. Spence would add creativity down that right-hand side, which we've not really got from Soufal or Johnson or Thilo Kehrer. And like I said, I pray but that's true. It's a bit of a long-winded explanation, but hopefully it makes a little bit of sense as to what I'm thinking here. Now, moving on. Shall we move on to that Wonderkid? Marcos Leonardo. Some of you have heard of him. I've seen a lot of people getting excited about him, but I'm calling them out now. You're getting excited because of Football Manager. I've seen yous, and to be fair, those that are excited about the link are confessing it's down to Football Manager. It's not something you can... I'm not seeing him play in real life. It's not a barometer. It doesn't translate to real life. But on Football Manager, however, he turns out to be a bloody good player. But we have been linked to him in the last week or so. But the rumours over the last 24 hours are that we had a loan bid rejected. 19-year-old striker for Santos was called up for the Under-20 World Championships with the Brazil squad, but Santos refused to release him, as well as a couple of other players. Not the only Brazilian club to do it, because now they're into their domestic season. So he's still with his club. I think they've played 3 games this season. He's got a goal already. He's got a 1 in 3 at the minute. For his career so far in Brazil, he's scoring a goal every 3 games. I've literally never seen him play. Nothing. I know nothing about him. But the option to buy was one of the things that we were, a couple of weeks ago, we were reported to be after him for around about 20 million. And like I said, that's changed in the last week to we want him on loan with an option to buy for 20 million. That makes sense, doesn't it? I'm all for stuff like that. Bring him over, even if he only plays in under 21s, we'll have a look at him, and he's good enough, and we decide that that's the player we want to go get, and he's worth 20 million, then great. I know nothing about him, but I want to see us investing in these younger players. It's hard not to see this rumour, right? I've tried my best, but I can't do it. It's hard not to see this rumour and think of Alvarez, isn't it? It's what David Moyes has done to us all. He's living rent-free in my head with that Diary of a CEO podcast when it's ringing in your ears about how Moyes sat there saying, oh yeah, that scout told me about a young lad Alvarez and he's done well at the World Cup. Blah, blah, blah. You just ring, is he another Alvarez? Well, if he is, bloody better get him in. So Marcos Leonardo may be someone to keep an eye out for, and I'm sure there's a couple of Football Manager subscribers here that's probably going to tell me that on their game he goes on to do really well too, which... Do you know something? I don't think it's as far away from real life as some people make on. I've not played it for a few years now. I've resisted the urge. The temptation is always there when it comes out. I think, nope, because I know if I get that blinking game, I can kiss goodbye to my life. I get addicted to it. I've got I've got a very addictive personality anyway. But when you put me in front of Football Manager, I could sit on it for 6, 7, 8 hours in one go. Before I know it's 4 a.m. And so, bloody hell, I better get to my bed kind of thing. So I've refused to buy it. I've done well. Even talking about it makes me tempted. But yeah, anyway, that's the rumour. Moving on to Areola. Before we do him, Dan Randolph is close to moving to Bournemouth on a free transfer. He's only got 6 months to go on his West Ham contract. Bournemouth want to get him in as their third choice keeper. It'll be a free transfer. It's just a case of West Ham getting his salary off the books, freeing up that squad space as well with the Premier League registration. Anang's been recalled from Derby County, so we've already got the replacement for Dan Randolph within the club. So it'll save West Ham about £1 million. I think he's on about 50 grand a week or something. So between now and then the season, it'll save the club about £1 million. It makes sense. It just makes sense, doesn't it? So anyway, Randolph, he's going to Bournemouth for free. It's one of those nothing transfers. Areola, Lorient want him. I did get worried initially when I saw it. I thought, I hope somebody's not... Because they've got the striker we want and we've got the keeper that they want. I'm thinking, please, can we have no deal here? I think a lot of West Ham fans will shrug their shoulders at this and say, well, who can blame him if he wants to go? The reports are today that he does want to go, that he wants to go on loan, which is interesting. Areola wants to go on loan. That's the rumours. There's a France squad coming out at the end of March. He wants to make sure he's in that. And I covered this on Patreon a couple of weeks ago because it came off the back of Hugo Lloris announcing his retirement from international football. And in that video, to summarise, I said, well, when Areola was here last season and he played in the Europa League, it was enough to keep him in the French squad, and he performed well in the Europa League. He had a big say in us getting to the semi-finals. That was enough to keep him in the World Cup squad. This season, he's had well, he's been similar game time, just in a lesser competition in the Conference League, but it was enough to keep him in that World Cup squad. There was a couple of injuries to other French goalkeepers as well, but he remained in the French World Cup squad. He would have been content with that because Lloris was their number one, undisputed. He's their captain. Areola was never nicking his shirt. Not just Areola, the other French keepers as well. They weren't getting a chance. Lloris is the captain and the goalkeeper. That is that. As long as Areola was in the squad, job done. And what he's had at West Ham has been enough. It's been adequate. But now it's changed. As soon as Lloris announced his retirement, Areola's situation, in my opinion, with the French national team changed. It became a case of A, there's an opportunity to grab that shirt, and B, there's a lot of other keepers breathing down my neck to get into the team. You've got Melly of Leeds United, you've got Lafont, you've got Mandanda. There'll be a couple of other French keepers that I don't know that is in with a chance of getting that number one shirt as well. But the gloves are up for grabs. Areola's situation today at West Ham, which is, well, he's not got any game time. Our next European games are in March. That's not enough time. He can't afford to waste the next month and a half. So I can understand why Areola is perhaps now getting a little bit nervous in regards to his place in the French national team. There's an opportunity there. His lack of game time at West Ham is not going to benefit him whatsoever. And I just think for the first time since he arrived on loan, so 18 months ago now, the situation with the French national team, that landscape has changed for Areola. And the domino effect is, well, hang on a minute, I can't afford to be sat on the bench at West Ham anymore. I could be, but now I can't be. That's how I see it anyway. I'm probably completely wrong, but that's just my opinion. And like I said, I covered it a couple of weeks ago. As soon as I saw that Lloris news, I thought, I wonder if this is going to impact Areola. So he's getting linked to Lorient on loan, and the rumours are that Areola wants that move. We can't do it. We just cannot do it. Forget Randolph. The Randolph thing does not matter. It's irrelevant here. I think Areola should have more game time. He should have a crack at the number one shirt. But even if Fabianski was going to remain our number one, we cannot afford Areola to leave this club. Could you imagine we did, and then Fabianski got injured? We're then calling on Anang, who couldn't even get into the Derby County team, to be our number one goalkeeper. It would be crazy. Areola, sorry, but you just cannot go anywhere. Well paid, third, fourth highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League. But I'll be honest with you, I quite like the fact that if he does want to leave, because it comes down to game time. It's a case of, well, I'm not staying for money. I want to leave and I want to go get game time. And I will never ever have anything against a player who prioritises either ambition, which is to win trophies, or just game time, which is I'm unhappy with the amount of minutes I'm getting. I'm unhappy with the opportunities at the club, so I want to go and play more football somewhere else. I'll never have an issue with that, and it's actually refreshing to hear, rather than some of the players you do get that, you know, pick up a decent wage and sit on the bench. Kind of, you could argue that's been Areola for the last 18 months, but like I said, certainly at the end of last season, he had good game time with the Europa League. And yes, we've got the Conference League knockouts coming up, but A, less competition, and like I said, B, the place in the French squad, that's changed. That dynamic has changed completely to what it was a couple of months ago. So anyway, that's your latest West Ham transfer rumours. There's a little bit about Terem Moffi. It looks like Dieng is a way to join Lorient, which means that Moffi can leave. Marseille are favourites to sign him at the minute. Nice are apparently agreeing a deal with Lorient, so it looks like it's between Nice and Marseille, and West Ham are out the running. I would be shocked if he ended up anywhere else other than Nice or Marseille. So the Moffi one, I think it's getting put to bed now, so we'll wait and see. But like I said, the rumours were we're not in for a striker anymore, that we're just going to go with what we've got. Not sure how I feel about that one, if I'm honest with you. I think the Cornet news is a little bit convenient. I think if you don't want to spend money, one way of justifying it is having an attacking player coming back into training at the exact right time. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but this board, I don't trust it. Just because, I've said it many times this year, just because David Moyes is struggling doesn't mean I will begin to trust this board. It's possible to think Moyes is struggling and still not trust this board, and this is where the second one comes in. I just find it too convenient that Cornet is back in training in the last week of the transfer window when we could do with signing a striker. Anyway, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck and all that, so if it smells a little bit, you get what I'm saying. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it, subscribe if you're new around here, we got some coasters on sale. I'll put the link in the pinned comments if you fancy one. And you've got the beer mats. It's the exact same designs, but we've just turned them into actual coasters with a hard back and a nice glossy finish as well. Better not do that in case they smash or something. But links in the description. I'll catch you tomorrow.